Good morning today, class. How are you all doing today?
Good morning,
Carol.
Carol. Sean.
Travis, put your phone away. I told you about rule number 3.
Oh yeah, I was looking up Econ stuff. Hey Econ.
Oh, very well. Then carry on. Wait a minute. Alright, so first we're going to do a review of macroeconomics for you guys. So microeconomics, it's the study of the trees, and macroeconomics, it's the far... Wait, okay. Pause. Restart. Okay. So macroeconomics is the study of large-scale economies. We're looking at the economies of countries, while microeconomics is the study of markets and firms within that country. We'll address issues such as aggregate demand, interest rates, inflation, unemployment, and monetary and fiscal policies.
What does all that mean?
In due time, my young Padawan. But today we will review the basics of macroeconomics and delve into fiscal policy. First, we will discuss aggregate demand.
What's that?
Wait, I think I know this.
Go ahead, Cole.
Aggregate demand is all the goods and services that buyers are willing and able to purchase at different price levels.
Very good, Cole. And aggregate demand is also known as real GDP. GDP, also called gross domestic product, is the outputs of goods and services produced by labor and property located in the United States.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. So what are the components of aggregate demand?
Excellent question, Travis. These are the 4 components to it. They're known as C plus I plus G plus NX. C stands for consumption, I stands for investment, G is government spending, and NX is net exports. The largest component of aggregate demand is consumption. It accounts for the spending we consumers do on things like cars, clothes, and food. Travis, put your phone away.
Yeah, Econ.
Investment is the consumption of capital goods and additions to inventory stock. Am I right?
Incredible, Cole. You are my star student. Travis, get off your phone.
Hey Econ.
Okay, so government spending speaks for itself. It's whatever products or resources the government decides to spend money on.
What about net exports?
They aren't the focus of the day, but good question. But now, fiscal policy is our main topic for today's lesson.
I read ahead in the textbook, because I love econ so much. Is this a policy carried out by the executive and legislative branches of government that make policy regarding government spending programs and taxation?
You're on a roll
Yeah,
today,
the
Cole.
Stanley Cup tonight? The Stanley Cup?
Guys.
This is so right. The Stanley Cup is going to be
You know,
crazy.
if you guys want to drop the class, then just be my guest.
Yeah, if you say so, Miss Liz.
Cole, what do you... So first for you guys, I'm going to draw a simple supply and demand curve. Don't forget to label your axes. And the first graph I will draw will be our AD, or aggregate demand curve. And our second graph we will draw will be our short-run aggregate supply curve. In the graph, you will have a long-run aggregate supply curve, which represents long-run equilibrium, or full employment. And this is where the economy is at equilibrium. Pause. Now we're going to discuss the main topic of today, which is fiscal policy. Fiscal policy can manifest itself in one of 2 ways, either expansionary or contractionary policy. 2 ways of manipulating the market are by changing government spending or taxes. First, let's start with an example of expansionary fiscal policy. This will be done when there is something called a recessionary gap, pink. This is an economic gap between the long-run equilibrium and the current intersection of supply and demand. It can be caused by high levels of inflation and high unemployment. The government will implement one of the 2 aforementioned policies, or both. They can either increase the government spending or decrease taxes. By increasing government spending, this will directly lead to an increase in the government spending component of aggregate demand. This will lead to a shift outward of the aggregate demand curve. As a result, this will lead to the aggregate demand reaching the long-run equilibrium. The policy that can be used is decreasing income tax. By decreasing income tax, the government is enabling consumers to have more disposable income. As a result, consumers will do what they do best: consume more. In effect, the consumption component of aggregate demand will increase, thus shifting aggregate demand outward, thus bringing the economy back into equilibrium.
But Mr. Nori, you didn't label your aggregate demand curves or your axes.
You're right, Travis, for once. This will be our original aggregate demand curve, and this we will label our new curve. We can call it AD1. On this part of the graph, the y-axis, we will label it PL for price level, and the x-axis we will label quantity of real GDP. Alright, Travis, let's try an example and see if you can answer this one. The American economy is experiencing a period of high short-run economic growth, but is also experiencing severe inflation. Draw the long-run equilibrium, as well as the current supply and demand curves, and explain the fiscal policy the government can implement to correct this gap.
Okay. Because there's a high inflation, there's clearly an expansionary gap. As a result, the government will implement contractionary fiscal policy in the form of decreasing government spending. This can decrease the government spending component of aggregate demand, shifting it inward and closing the expansionary gap. An increase in taxes will have the same result, but it will be on the consumption instead. Part of the ADD? AD? Yeah. Yeah? Okay. So let's check. The money multiplier of government spending is 1 over MPS, which is higher than the tax multiplier, which is MPC over MPS. Therefore, the government spending has greater effect than taxes.
Wow, Travis, I didn't know you knew all that. That's so impressive.
Not as dumb as I look, Miss Liz.